I still remember the beep of the heart monitor, steady as a metronome, counting down the seconds I had left to wonder if anyone was coming. The nurse's shoes squeaked on the linoleum, but no familiar footsteps followed. My phone, cracked screen glowing on the tray table, showed one message from my daughter Emily. "Mom, the kids are so excited for Disney. We'll call when we land." That was it. "No, how are you?" "No, we're turning the car around." Just Mickey Mouse and sunburned selfies while I lay intubated in ICU, lungs drowning in pneumonia. I stared at the ceiling tiles until they blurred, and I promised myself, if I survived this, I would never beg for a seat at their table again. My name is Margaret Rose Callahan, but the grandkids used to call me Nana Rosie because I smelled like the roses I grew along the back fence. 67 years old, widowed 15 years, and I had raised 3 children in the little blue house on Maple Lane. The same house where I folded tiny socks with cartoon dinosaurs, where I stirred oatmeal at 5:30 a.m. so Mark could make the early bus to his construction site, where I counted pennies from my part-time library job to pay for Emily's dance lessons and Michael's hockey gear. I can still feel the steam from the iron as I pressed their school uniforms, the hiss of the spray starch, the way the cotton cooled under my palms. Those were the mornings when love felt like warm bread and the radio played old Sinatra. The garden was my sanctuary. Even after the arthritis curled my fingers, I knelt in the dirt every April, pressing snapdragon seeds into the soil like secrets. The smell of wet earth and coffee grounds from the compost bin wrapped around me like an old quilt. I'd hum Que Sera Sera while the sprinkler clicked in lazy circles, watering the petunias I planted the year Sarah was born. Sarah, my youngest, the one with Mark's hazel eyes and my stubborn chin. She promised she'd bring the kids over every Sunday for roast chicken. "Tomorrow, Mom," she'd say, kissing my cheek with lips that tasted like peppermint gum. Tomorrow never came. Tomorrow became texts with crying laughing emojis when I asked why the driveway stayed empty. I see it now, clear as the scar on my chest from the triple bypass 10 years ago. The shift started small. Emily moved to Charlotte for Tom's promotion, and suddenly my meatloaf recipe was too heavy. Michael needed a little loan for the down payment on their McMansion, $25,000. I pulled from the savings I'd scraped together for a new roof. Sarah stopped calling it coming home and started calling it stopping by. The grandkids learned to wave through the window instead of running into my arms. I told myself it was busy schedules, growing pains, the way of the world. I kept the cookie jar full anyway, kept the porch light on, then came December. The cough started like a tickle, turned into a rattle that shook my ribs. The doctor said pneumonia, then sepsis, then we need to intubate. I signed the consent form with a hand that wouldn't stop trembling. In the haze of fever, I pictured Sarah's face when the nurse called. I imagined her dropping everything, boarding the next flight from Orlando. Instead, the charge nurse told me gently that my emergency contact, Sarah, had asked them to text updates. Text updates, like I was a weather report. 7 days. 7 days on a ventilator while my family posted carousel photos under Cinderella's castle. Emily's caption, "Making memories that last a lifetime." I learned this later when the breathing tube came out and I could hold the phone myself. The screen burned my eyes worse than the fluorescent lights. There was Michael, sunburned and grinning, holding a churro the size of his forearm. Sarah's twins wore matching mini ears. Not one tag, not one story, not one get well, Nana. Just magic bands and overpriced balloons. The hospital social worker, a kind woman named Dolores with braids threaded with gray, sat beside my bed and asked, "Who can we call to help you home?" I laughed until the oxygen mask fogged. Home. The blue house with the leaky faucet and the fridge full of Tupperware no one would eat. I whispered, "No one." Dolores squeezed my hand. "Then we'll find someone." She did. Hospice volunteers, a physical therapist named Jamal who taught me to walk with a walker, a cleaning service paid for by the church fund I'd tithed to for 40 years. Strangers became my family while my blood posted fireworks over the Magic Kingdom. Discharge day? I sat in the vinyl chair, clutching the plastic bag with my belongings, dentures in a cup, the rosary my mother gave me, and the cracked phone. The cab smelled like pine air freshener and old cigarettes. Maple Lane looked smaller, the paint peeling like sunburnt skin. Inside, the silence pressed against my eardrums. A single envelope leaned against the salt shaker on the kitchen table, Sarah's handwriting. "Mom, keys are under the mat. We'll swing by after we unpack." Love you. No apology, no shame. Just the assumption I'd be waiting, like always. I brewed tea with shaking hands. The chamomile smelled like the sachets I used to tuck into their Christmas stockings. I walked room to room, touching the wallpaper I'd hung myself, the growth chart penciled inside the pantry door. Sarah 4'2" at age 8. Michael 5'11" at 16. Emily's ballet slippers still hung from a nail in the hallway, dusty and forgotten. I opened the junk drawer, found the spare key ring, and slipped the house key off. One twist, one click. The deadbolt slid home. That night, I called Mr. Jenkins, the lawyer who'd handled Mark's estate. "Margaret," he said, surprised to hear my voice, "we thought—" I cut him off. "I need the will redrawn. Everything to the women's shelter and the library fund. Nothing to my children." He paused, then, "Are you certain?" I watched snow feather past the window, soft as forgiveness I no longer had to give. "I've never been more certain of anything." Sarah came 2 days later, banging on the door until the hinges rattled. "Mom, open up." "What is this?" She held up her key, useless now. The twins peered from the minivan, confused. I opened the door just wide enough to see her flushed face. "You changed the locks?" She shrieked. "After everything I raised one hand. "Everything you what, Sarah? Left me to die alone?" My voice didn't shake. It sounded like the woman who once carried 3 toddlers on her hips through grocery aisles. "You made your choice in Orlando. I've made mine here." Emily arrived next, mascara streaks like war paint. "This is insane, Mom. You're sick. You need us." I smiled, the way you smile at a child who's dropped an ice cream cone. "I needed you in the ICU. You needed Space Mountain." Michael tried the money angle. "Think of the grandkids' college funds." As if love could be collateral. I closed the door. The click of the lock was softer than their excuses. Spring came early that year. I sold the blue house to a young couple expecting their first baby. The wife cried when I gave her my rose clippings wrapped in damp newspaper. I moved into a sunlit apartment above the library, 1 bedroom with a balcony overlooking the river. Every morning, I water the geraniums I bought with my own pension check. The petals are red as the lipstick I started wearing again. Sometimes, late at night, I sit with a cup of chamomile and scroll past their social media. Emily's posts are quieter now, no more sick blessed. Sarah's twins ask about Nana Rosie in the comments. She deletes them. Michael's business page begs for investors. I don't gloat. I simply close the app and open my journal. The pages fill with recipes I cook for one, books I read without interruption, the sound of my own laughter echoing off walls that belong to me. The necklace Mark gave me on our 25th anniversary, a tiny gold heart, hangs on a hook by the door. I stopped wearing it the day I changed the locks. Some mornings I touch it, feel its cool weight, and remember the girl who believed love meant giving until nothing remained. That girl survived ICU. She learned that boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges to the self you almost forgot. If you're listening, sweetheart, remember this. The heart that breaks open can still beat. The hands that once folded their laundry can learn to fold peace around themselves like a quilt. Plant your own roses, keep your own key. And when tomorrow finally comes, make sure it's on your terms.